that will fix the environmental problems they're looking at with the off of oil and gas and coal. So there are all these organizations out there that pull in tens of millions to hundreds of millions of dollars every year, and yet this issue, because it has gotten so well ridiculed. I mean, I had an Air Force guy say to me once, Steve, he said, this subject has been kept in the category it's in mainly because of the ridicule factor that was hooked up in the 1950s. And I actually then got a document from the CIA that talks about the psychological warfare value of the subject and engaging Disney Studios back in the 50s to make cartoons and to make light of the subject so that people wouldn't take it seriously, that it's considered kooky, et cetera, and so on. So this was done 60 years ago. Very, very carefully. This is a 1953 document. This is 2013. So for 60 years, there's been a very well-crafted counterintelligence disinformation nexus. But a lot of it is just putting absurd stuff out there that just turns rational thinking people off. And, I have to say they've done a very good job at doing something rather nasty. But then again, so did the Third Reich. And so you're dealing with people say, oh, well, these people are really all dumb. I said, no, they're not. They're just maniacal and, frankly, rather evil. But it doesn't mean that they're not good at what they do. They're quite good at what they do.
Well, again, and you're going about it the right way. You needed to get it to the public's attention and then have the public demand of the representatives to fund this kind of legislation, and bring it to the forefront of technology. With your serious, with the documentary's debut, are you planning events that similar to the Disclosure Project back in 2001?
Well, they won't be like that, but they're going to be a series of premieres and, of course, interviews and press events that this publicist is coordinating with us. And, of course, a lot of this is just limited by budget. It was crowdfunded, and we don't have you usually get what's called a print and advertising budget that's many times what you put into the film, or as much as what you we don't have that. So, again, it's all pretty much word of mouth, social media. One thing we're going to do, though, which is really quite exciting, is that we're looking at doing a video-on-demand system where it can become an affiliate, where everyone who wants to sign up as a distributor can and put it through their whole network, and then they get part of the revenue of the video-on-demand stream for their nonprofit or organization or something they want, or if they want to direct it to the Energy Lab. So we're really looking at this going very virally, but with some really big news media coverage of it because of the content, including the fact that we have one of the top universities in the world doing the analysis on this little creature that we have gained access to and are doing the genetic studies on, and also the CAT scans and the medical studies on, which I guess you've heard about.
Well, you've got 500 voices out there that have credentials behind them. Perhaps there's a way to harness them to contact the networks, the Today Show, get you on the Today Show, get you on Good Morning America the week of the premiere, get you on the Jon Stewart's Daily Show. Things that anything like that you can help us with would be great. Also, any people or contacts you have, because I could hook you up with our publicist who's going to be coordinating that in the next couple of months. Actually, this whole plan that you're asking about is I'm going to be in Los Angeles next week, where I'm going to be meeting with our whole team to discuss, how to stand that up with the resources we have. And so if you have any connections or ideas, we're all ears, really. Happy to help.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Well, the other part of it I think that's interesting about your books was this connection to the ancient societies and ancient pyramids in Egypt, because we know that there is unquestioning that information from the sources I have that the planet has never been alone. In other words, there's never been a time when humans haven't had these sort of visits.
Well, what I do is I take a fact and weave it into the fiction, and I'm not making these claims with the Disclosure Project, but things like Rh negative blood. Rh negative blood is a factor that is only present in 15% of humans, and Rh is the factor that is short for rhesus monkey because it traces back to our links to primates. And yet 15% of our population has no has the Rh negative factor, which means that there is no tie into primates. And so where did our DNA come from back then? Was it infused in us by a higher source? Is it something that elevated us up the evolutionary ladder a little bit quicker?
Right.
And this is fodder for my series.
Well, actually, it's fodder for a lot. One of the guys at Jet Propulsion Labs told me that the reasons that the structures that have been discovered on Mars, which do exist, by the way, and even Buzz Aldrin has recently said we need to go back and look at these obelisks and things that are out there on Phobos and on the moon and on other things out by Mars, is that it would make a connection between structures in early civilizations on Earth and these structures on Mars. I said, well, so what? He says, I said, those are millions of years old, aren't they? He says, yes, they are. He says, the problem is that it would collapse the orthodox fundamentalist belief systems of every religion on Earth. And I said, well, good. I mean, if people really think the Earth is 6,000 years old and we rode dinosaurs with saddles on them, too bad for them. He says, no. He says, you don't understand how powerful that interest sector is in this. So it was this astonishing conversation to be having with a senior scientist at Jet Propulsion Labs as to why this stuff, even this ancient information, is being covered up because of sort of the power dynamics of organized religion. And I thought, oh my God, this is so crazy. And he said, yeah, it is crazy, but
well, there was a great line in one of the Soprano episodes with Tony Soprano when someone was explaining that the Earth was only 6,000 years old, and man played with the dinosaurs, and he said, "What, like the Flintstones?"
Right, exactly.
But people believe in this stuff, and unfortunately.
Well, actually, yeah, there's a museum in Kentucky. They spent $27 million to build this museum that shows the children and dinosaurs playing together, and because the world literally has to be 6,000 or 8,000 years old. And in fact, there are two members of the House Science Committee. One of whom, I'm embarrassed to say, is a medical doctor who has gotten up and said, oh, yes, that's all true. The world is only 6,000 or 8,000 years old. And I'm going, wow, this is scary. That it's such untutored and ideas that beggar the imagination could become promulgated as fact. Boy, we're in trouble. Where science is kicked to the curb as hard as it has been on so many issues. But to hear this from a Jet Propulsion Labs guy about the cover-up of some of these ancient items. And there's a man I know who works under contract with the CIA. He actually works for a corporation, like they all do, who is routinely handed off devices during archaeological digs or from the bottom of the ocean that make their way or get confiscated by the intelligence community. And he says some of them are in the hundreds of thousands of years old, and they're technological. And what his job is to figure out what they might have done and how they might have been used. And apparently some of them belong to advanced civilizations that have been on Earth for which we have no record. Others are apparently of extraterrestrial origin. But this is a man who's a very senior scientist, has worked since the 70s for 40 years on these issues. And this sounds like science fiction to people, but it is not. And so the Earth holds many mysteries. And it's a shame that, this, has all been withheld from the public. But what we're hoping is that, what we'll do with this serious film is to have it go viral globally and begin to change the dynamic. And it is changing, and it's inevitable that the truth on all this is going to come out. It's just how it comes out. Does it come out in a way that scares the hell out of people, or does it come out in a way that creates a positive future for humanity? And we're choosing the latter. We want a positive future for humanity that doesn't fall into the trap of xenophobia and alien invasion week on the History Channel sort of nonsense. And I think what we have to do is figure out how to do this in the correct way so that people are inspired and it's interesting and it can be very entertaining as well, but that gives us a pathway forward out of the fear and nonsense that kind of dominates this issue.
Well, to be forewarned is to be forearmed, and you know that as soon as you pop above the radar, it's going to turn into War of the Worlds.
Yes, of course. We have no doubt. When we saw this meteor explode over Russia, I was going, oh boy, because immediately there were people who got on board. Hey, we have to have weapons in space. We have to, So, and Werner von Braun had predicted that first would be the Cold War, then there'd be global terrorism, then there'd be threats from space from asteroids and meteors, and then they would pop the alien threat hoax, and that they would hoax an alien threat. And in fact, one of the men on my team had been on an interagency panel in 1974, now this is almost 40 years ago, where they were planning how to use man-made flying saucers. So we've had anti-gravity devices since the 50s, fully operational, and to do some things that would hoax what would look like an ET attack when it wasn't. And when he learned of this, he was so appalled. And another man who's a colonel who had been involved in the early days of the Star Wars SDI initiative had met with both Carter and Reagan trying to convince them to put, billions of dollars into these weapons in space. He said that was one of the cards they did play, was that there'd be a threat from outer space, or is one, and we need to have weapons that we can fight them with. And to which I just think it's the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard. Of course, even nuclear weapons, it was mutual assured destruction. If you're dealing with technologies that are faster than the speed of light, forget about it. It's going to be 0.1 nanosecond, and then the Earth would be a pink mist floating through space. But it's a fantasy that the military-industrial complex, we know, is going to try to foist onto, unfortunately, a gullible public. And we have to be there saying, let's not. It's like that old song, we won't be fooled again. I forget it was the Who.
And that's what I was getting at. And the name I was thinking was Snoops.com. That if you want to check to see if something is ridiculous or if it's real, people go to Snoops, and you have to almost create an equivalent of that on your website, where not that you're there to verify every photo taken of an extraterrestrial, but you're there to verify the rumors that are coming out that are trying to stain the great work that you're trying to do. And if it's not certified by, your organization, then don't buy into it.
Right. Well, we would love to do that, and we do what we can with it at this stage with
I understand.
With me and my wife and a couple volunteers and one sort of secretarial assistant helping us, and that's how we're doing it. But at someday, I hope we can do what you're proposing. It's a great idea, and
well, I do appreciate you having me on as your guest, and I would love to be at your premiere and support you in any way I can, and certainly spread your information to my fan base too.
Yeah, we'll get the word out. The site, SeriousDisclosure.com, you can link it out to your fan base, and anyone who's in the LA area wants to come to the premiere, they can. We're going to do it so people can do it all online, so, they can already be pre-registered for that event. And it's going to be exciting, and I think we're going to have a lot of great folks at this event. We may even have some of these witnesses there as well, and some fun celebrity. We know that you were having, for example, this actor Thomas Jane is doing the voiceover for the film Sirius. And anyway, it's going to be an exciting event for everyone, and look forward to seeing you there. And I want to thank you for your, networking support and ideas also, Steve, and being here with us.
Thank you. And as soon as we end the interview, I will post all this onto Facebook, your site.
Oh, thank you so much. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you there, and thanks for being here. And I want to thank the folks at the World Fusion Network for hosting us here every 2 weeks, and we'll see you again in about 2 weeks from now. And until then, God bless and keep looking up. Bye-bye.